Things are heating up in O-Block like never before. First, the feds came for Lil Durk earlier this year. 5 years back, it was Lil Tim who took out King Von. And now, on May 10th, the streets are buzzing again after ops caught Munna Duke and O-Block youngin slipping.
Beans and bologna. They put their ass up there on full.
And alleged new footage of their deaths just hit the internet, and it's already revealing a lot, from how they were hit to who might have pulled the trigger. In this video, I'm breaking down everything we know so far, the suspects, the drive-by, and why this could be the start of something even bigger in Chicago. The shocking deaths of Munna Duke and O-Block youngin. In the wee hours of May 10th, 2025, the hip-hop world got hit with some devastating news that sent shockwaves through the drill scene and beyond. Straight facts, no cap. Two major players from O-Block, Munna Duke and youngin, got bodied in what the boys in blue are calling a straight-up brutal drive-by. This whole thing went down around 1:20 a.m. in the Cheese Edgewater hood, specifically on the 6,300 block of North Broadway, leaving fans in shambles and raising mad questions about the ongoing beef between rival sets in the city. Word on the street is that the victims were just leaving this spot with a late-night liquor license when some ops pulled up in a stolen Infiniti Q50 and let it bang. The whip was later found torched in the 600 block of East 134th Place on Chicago's far south side, a classic move to burn the evidence that's become standard procedure in these gang-related drills across the city. The hit claimed both rappers. Munna Duke, 31, caught one to the chest and was pronounced DOA at Weiss Hospital, while youngin, also known as Youngin from the Jets, only 28, took multiple slugs and couldn't be saved despite the docs at St. Francis Hospital trying to bring him back. A third victim, some 36-year-old whose name hasn't been released, caught one to the back, but he's stable at Evanston Hospital. The scene was something straight out of a movie. Investigators found dozens of shell casings all over the spot, showing this wasn't just some random shooting. These shooters came through dumping, trying to make sure nobody walked away. As of May 12th, 2025, the triggermen are still in the wind, with no arrests being reported by CPD. While the Chi is no stranger to violence, this particular incident hits different because of the O-Block connection, a hood that's gained legendary status in hip-hop circles since it was king. Von's stomping grounds and has been a cornerstone in the drill movement. The word is that this hit is connected to the long-standing beef between Tookaville and Smashville, two sets of the gangster disciples, adding another bloody chapter to the Southside saga. To really get why this is such a big deal, we gotta understand who these up-and-coming rappers were and how they were tied to one of drill music's most legendary figures. Munna Duke, government name Rashawn Vance, was mad respected in O-Block, known for his track 12 AM and being tight with King Von for real. Munna Duke saw Von as blood and was part of Von's inner circle before Von got knocked off in 2020. In this eye-opening interview with DJ Academics from November 13th, 2024, Munna Duke kept it a buck about how Von's passing hit different while he was locked up.
What was the reaction from the jail when they found out that he passed away?
Man, the jail that I was in, they were up, you know what I'm saying, from the correctional officers and all type of shit, you know what I'm saying, because they for him too, you know what I'm saying, and they put me off the strength for him, you know what I'm saying, so they kind of jail up, you know what I'm saying.
Recently, Munna Duke had become a father, having a shorty with Fat Banks, who also has kids with DT Thang, Lil Durk's late brother. This connection deepened his ties in the Cheese rap scene and showed he was trying to build something real. In the months before he got hit, there were signs that Munna Duke was trying to leave that street life behind, focusing on getting legit money and sometimes posting pics in Muslim attire, suggesting he might have been on a different path. Youngin, at 28, was coming up fast in the drill game, gaining mad props for his raw, unfiltered bars that painted vivid pictures of life in the O. Connected to the Black Disciples, BDs, youngin and King Von were tight, and many saw him as the one carrying O-Block's distinctive sound forward after Von was gone. His growing fan base and potential to blow up for real made his untimely death even more of a tragedy, cutting short what could have been a major career in the game. The deaths of Munna Duke and youngin add to a disturbing pattern of violence that's become way too familiar in the drill scene, especially among artists from O-Block. The neighborhood, tucked in Chicago's South Side, has produced several notable rappers, including King Von, whose own murder in 2020 highlighted the dangers faced by artists from this area. After the hit went down, the rap community was in shambles over the two fallen soldiers. Fat Banks, the mother of Munna Duke's child, shared a heart-wrenching post on the gram, pouring out her pain and love for him. Other rappers like Asian Doll and Big 30 paid homage on social media, showing how deep these artists were respected. In their musical circle, this tragic event isn't just about losing two talented individuals. It represents the ongoing cycle of violence violence that keeps plaguing certain hoods in Chicago and the hip-hop community more broadly. The connection to King Von and O'Block adds another layer to the story, showing how past beef and affiliations can have long-lasting and deadly consequences. Some early reports got the details twisted, with sources like Hype Fresh incorrectly saying it happened on May 9th, 2025, and putting it on the south side where O'Block is located. But reliable local sources confirmed it actually went down on May 10th, 2025, in Edgewater on the north side. This detail is major because it suggests the victims weren't in their usual territory when they got hit, raising questions about whether they were deliberately caught slipping away from their home turf. The investigation into the murders of Munna Duke and Youngin is ongoing, with Chicago police working to identify and lock up the shooters. Finding the stolen whip used in the hit provides a potential lead, but as of now, nobody's been booked. The lack of solid info has led to all kinds of speculation and rumors in the community, making it even harder to get the full picture of what really went down. This incident highlights the never-ending cycle of violence in Chicago, particularly in neighborhoods like O'Block, where gang beefs and street conflicts often overlap with the rap scene. The deaths of Munna Duke and Youngin shine a light on the risks faced by young artists with ties to gang-affiliated areas, with drill music both reflecting and sometimes adding fuel to these tensions. To truly understand the weight of this tragic event, we gotta explore the deep connection between these rising stars and King Von, a figure whose influence is still heavy in the O'Block community long after his death. Their shared history and bonds provide crucial context for understanding why their deaths have hit so hard within the hip-hop world and beyond. Munna Duke and King Von's relationship was way deeper than just knowing each other or working together on music. They came up together in Parkway Garden homes known as O'Block, building a brotherhood that defined much of their lives. Despite not being actual blood relatives, Munna Duke saw Von as a real brother and was one of his most trusted homies. In a January 29, 2024 interview on the No Jumper podcast, Munna Duke described King Von as a genuine person and a real stand-up guy, emphasizing how tight they really were. They had some tracks together, including Gang featuring King Von on SoundCloud, showing they were also connecting on the music tip. This partnership was part of a bigger network of artists and affiliates connected to O'Block, a community that's been mad influential in shaping today's drill scene. Similarly, Youngin's bond with King Von was defined by his role in carrying O'Block's distinctive sound forward. Sources say Youngin and Von were close, with Youngin's authentic approach to music mirroring Von's storytelling style. At 28, Youngin was positioned to carry Von's legacy, especially after Von got bodied in 2020. His realness and loyalty earned him respect in the streets, establishing him as a voice for those navigating the treacherous gang life, a role that Von had also embodied. The deaths of Munna Duke and Youngin represent not just the loss of two individuals, but a major blow to the cultural legacy of O'Block, and by extension, to King Von's ongoing influence. Their murders add another tragic chapter to a story of violence that has claimed too many lives in this community, leaving fans, friends, and family to process the devastating reality of yet another loss. As we go deeper into this tragedy, it's essential to examine the broader context of gang rivalries in Chicago, particularly the beef between Tookerville and Smashville, which has been linked to the shooting. Understanding these dynamics provides crucial insight into the forces that may have contributed to the deaths of Munna Duke and Youngin and continues to fuel violence in the city's most vulnerable neighborhoods. Gang rivalries and the Tookerville-Smashville conflict. The murders of Munna Duke and Youngin can't be fully understood without getting into the complex web of gang beefs that run through Chicago's South Side, especially the tension between Tookerville and Smashville. These two factions, both claiming GD, Gangster Disciples, represent just a small piece of the fragmentation and internal beef that's been defining Chicago's gang landscape in recent years. Tookerville, also known as STL-EBT, St. Lawrence Boys EBT, holds down the 63rd Street area. The set got its name to honor Shondale Tuka Gregory, a 15-year-old member who got smoked in 2011 by ops from Wick City and TYMB, formerly 065 Young Money. This practice of naming blocks after fallen soldiers is common in gang culture, serving as both tribute and a constant reminder that there's blood to be avenged. Tookerville has joined forces with other GD sets like Jarrow City and Taekwon World, but they've also been into it with rival gangs like O'Block and potentially other GD factions, including Smashville. Smashville, another GD faction, was led by Stefan Mack until he got bodied in January 2022. Based in the South Side, Smashville has been caught up in conflicts that point to internal rivalries within the GD nation, including possible beef with Tookerville. Mack's murder was connected to a get-back plot involving rapper Lil Durk, whose brother was killed by a GD faction with ties to Smashville, showing how these beefs are all interconnected. Both sets operate under the larger Gangster Disciples banner, a gang rooted in Chicago's South Side, particularly Inglewood, going back to the late 1960s. The GDs came together when the Supreme Gangsters and Black Disciples merged under Larry Hoover and David Barksdale. but since then, they've splintered into countless factions or sets, each with their own leadership and territory. This breaking apart has led to increased violence as sets compete for power, turf, and influence. The violence between rivals like Tookerville and Smashville follows patterns we see all over Chicago's gang culture. According to CPD, 70% of gang-related shootings happen in just 10% of the city's neighborhoods, highlighting how these conflicts stay concentrated in certain areas. For example, Tookerville holding down 63rd Street while Smashville operates nearby creates natural friction over who controls what. Territorial disputes often lead to bloodshed as gangs try to protect or expand their turf. Historical data, like a 2012 Chicago Tribune article, points out that factionalism within the GDs has caused spikes in violence, with sets like Killer Ward and the Hit Squad getting into bloody conflicts over shared territory. The beef between Tookerville and Smashville fits this pattern, as internal disputes within the broader GD organization can quickly escalate to bodies dropping. Gang violence almost always follows a cycle of get-back, driven by personal scores and historical beef. For instance, after Tooka got killed by Wet City and TYMB, Tookerville adopted his name and continued the cycle of violence, potentially including conflicts with Smashville. Similarly, the murder of Stefan Mack, who ran Smashville in 2022, was allegedly tied to a revenge plot by Lil Durk, whose brother was killed by a GD faction connected to Smashville. This never-ending cycle of revenge keeps the violence going, with each incident sparking more retaliation. These beefs play out through drive-bys, targeted hits, and occasionally stabbings. The May 10th, 2025 shooting in Chicago's Edgewater that took out Muna Duke and Youngin, with a third person wounded, has been described as a suspected drive-by connected to the Tookerville-Smashville rivalry. These types of incidents happen all too often, with police stats showing mad shootings in areas where gangs are deep. Gang rivalries get amplified through social media and drill music, where affiliations and diss tracks can pour gasoline on already burning tensions. For example, FBG Duck, who claimed Tookerville, got killed in 2020 allegedly as payback for dissing dead ops in his music, showing how rap can sometimes escalate real-world violence. Similarly, Lil Durk's connection to O-Block and his alleged involvement in the murder of Smashville's leader illustrates how high-profile figures can intensify gang conflicts. We can't ignore the economic and social factors behind these rivalries. Gang violence often thrives where there's economic oppression, lack of opportunity, and systemic issues like redlining, which has historically trapped gangs in specific neighborhoods. The drug game, a major source of income for gangs like the GDs, further fuels territorial disputes and violence. Former Chicago Police Superintendent Gary McCarthy has stated that gangs, making up just 7% of the population, are responsible for 80% of violent crime, showing the scale of the problem. The feds and local law enforcement have targeted gangs like the GDs through RICO cases and operations like Operation Legend. For instance, in July 2021, federal agents locked up 27 Black Disciples members in Englewood for drug and gun violations, trying to disrupt gang operations and reduce violence. But these efforts haven't completely stopped the violence, as internal rivalries continue to drive conflicts. The deaths of Muna Duke and Youngin need to be understood in this broader context of gang rivalries and violence in Chicago. While both were making moves as legitimate artists, their O-Block affiliation likely made them targets in the ongoing conflict between Tookerville and Smashville. This tragedy highlights the blurred lines between the music industry and gang culture, where success in the booth can sometimes increase your risk in the streets. The King Von connection adds another layer to this complex story. Von's death in 2020 during a shooting in Atlanta involving Quando Rondo's crew set off a chain of events that's still sending ripples through the drill scene. Losing Muna Duke and Youngin, both closely tied to Von, represents a further diminishing of his legacy and the O-Block community he helped put on the map. The May 10th, 2025 shooting isn't just a random incident, but part of a tragic pattern that's claimed countless lives across Chicago. The use of a stolen whip, later found burning miles from the scene, suggests serious planning and familiarity with tactics commonly used in gang hits. The location of the shooting in Edgewater rather than the South Side, where both victims had stronger ties, raises questions about whether they were deliberately caught slipping away from their home turf, where they might have been more on point or had more homies around. The fact that dozens of shell casings littered the scene tells us the shooters came to make sure nobody walked away, suggesting this wasn't just some random act, but a calculated assassination. The third victim, whose identity hasn't been released, might have just been in the wrong place at the wrong time during what appears to have been a targeted hit on Muna Duke and Youngin specifically. As Chicago authorities continue investigating, the hip-hop community and residents of areas affected by gang violence are left to process yet another senseless loss. The deaths of Muna Duke and Youngin highlight the urgent need for comprehensive approaches to address the root causes of gang violence, including economic inequality, limited opportunities, and the normalization of street conflicts. The aftermath of such tragedies often follows a predictable pattern: public outrage, demands for justice, promises of change, and then a gradual return to business as as usual until the next incident makes headlines. Breaking this cycle requires sustained effort and investment in affected communities, providing alternatives to gang involvement and addressing the systemic issues that fuel violence. For those in the drill scene, particularly artists with ties to O Block and other gang-affiliated areas, the deaths of Muna Duke and Youngin serve as a stark reminder of the dangers they face. The question of how to honor their legacies while discouraging further violence presents a challenging dilemma for peers, fans, and the industry as a whole. As we dive deeper into the circumstances surrounding the deaths of Muna Duke and Youngin, it's essential to examine the complex legacy of King Von, whose influence continues to shape the narrative around O Block and its artists. The connections between these three figures, Von, Duke, and Youngin, provide crucial context for understanding the ongoing conflicts and tragedies that have plagued this community. King Von's legacy and the cycle of violence. The murders of Muna Duke and Youngin can't be fully understood without looking at the massive impact of King Von's life and tragic death on the O Block community and the broader drill scene. Von's murder on November 6, 2020, set off a chain reaction that's still sending shockwaves through Chicago's streets and the hip-hop industry, creating ripples of retaliation and grief that have claimed even more lives. King Von, government name Davon Daquan Bennett, got popped around 2:15 a.m. outside the Monaco Hookah Lounge in downtown Atlanta, Georgia. The whole thing kicked off with a physical altercation between Von's squad and Quando Rondo's crew, quickly escalating to gunfire. According to the Georgia Bureau of Investigation, the shooting left 6 people hit, with 2 fatalities, including King Von, and 3 others wounded. Von caught multiple slugs and was rushed to the hospital in critical condition, where he later succumbed to his injuries. After it all went down, Timothy Lul Tim Leaks, a 22-year-old associate of Quando Rondo, got booked and charged with felony murder on November 7, 2020. Initially denied bail, Leaks eventually got a $100,000 bond in March 2021 and was released with an ankle monitor. But in a controversial plot twist, the charges against Leaks were dismissed in August 2023. According to his attorney, Noah Pines, the case against Mr. Leaks was dismissed prior to ever being indicted, citing Georgia's Stand Your Ground law, which allows for the use of deadly force in self-defense without needing to retreat. This dismissal sparked outrage among Von's supporters and highlighted the complex legal questions surrounding self-defense claims in situations involving mutual combat. The decision not to prosecute, made by the Fulton County DA's office, left many feeling like justice wasn't served, potentially fueling desires for street justice and retaliation. The aftermath of King Von's murder saw major legal and social fallout. In October 2024, Lil Durk, a close homie and collaborator of King Von, got locked up near Miami International Airport on federal charges, including conspiracy to commit murder for hire. These charges stem from an alleged plot to smoke Quando Rondo as payback for King Von's killing, resulting in the death of Rondo's cousin, Saviaya Lul Pab Robinson, during a shooting in Los Angeles in August 2022. 5 members of OTF, Only the Family, Durk's collective, also got booked in connection with this case. The August 19, 2022 hit on Quando Rondo went down at a gas station near the Beverly Center Mall in Los Angeles. While Rondo himself made it out unscathed, his cousin Saviaya Robinson caught a fatal bullet when OTF members allegedly let off at least 18 rounds at their vehicle. This incident, now tied through federal charges to Lil Durk's alleged retaliation for Von's death, shows how the cycle of violence can claim innocent lives and extend way beyond the original beef. According to federal prosecutors, Durk, referred to as Banks, put a bounty on Rondo, initials TB, and used OTF money to fund the hit. 5 men, Kayvon London Grant, DeAndre Dontrell Wilson, Keith Jones, David Bryan Lindsay, and Asa Houston, were charged with conspiracy to commit murder for hire and related firearms offenses. The squad allegedly tracked Rondo using 2 vehicles, copped ski masks, and used a machine gun in the ambush. Flights and accommodations were reportedly booked with credit cards linked to Durk and OTF, suggesting this was a well-organized operation. On October 24, 2024, Durk got nabbed while allegedly trying to flee the country, with bookings for flights to Dubai, Switzerland, and a private jet to Italy, adding another dramatic chapter to this ongoing saga. The same day, the 5 OTF associates were indicted in Chicago. Durk faced charges of conspiracy to commit murder for hire resulting in death, and firearms offenses with a potential life sentence if convicted. Prosecutors pointed to Durk's lyrics in his 2022 song Wonderful Wayne and Jackie Boy as evidence, claiming they referenced the shooting and Lil Pab's death. However, Durk's producer, Jusvibi, later clarified that the song was recorded 7 months before the incident, arguing the lyrics were coincidental. This use of lyrics as evidence highlights the ongoing debate about whether bars should be treated as autobiography or used against artists in criminal cases. On November 14, 2024, Durk pleaded not guilty in Los Angeles federal court, with a trial initially set for January 7, 2025, later pushed back to October due to the case's complexity. As of May 12, 2025, he remains locked up at the Metropolitan Detention Center in Los Angeles, awaiting trial. The legal drama extends beyond just the direct participants in these violent incidents. King Von's estate has been named in a wrongful death lawsuit filed by the family of FBG Duck, another Chicago rapper murdered in August 2020. According to NBC Chicago, the lawsuit, filed in October 2024, accuses King Von, Lil Durk, and OTF Records of profiting from FBG Duck's death through negligence and misconduct, adding another layer of legal complexity to the story. Beyond the legal implications, King Von's legacy has been the subject of intense debate and scrutiny. A controversial documentary titled King Von Rap's First Serial Killer by Trap Lore Ross dropped in 2023, claiming that Von was connected to 10 different murders based on evidence from social media posts, timestamps, lyrics, and police reports. The documentary got taken down from YouTube following backlash from fans and family, but was later put back up. The documentary alleges that King Von was involved in multiple bodies, including those of individuals known as Modell, P5, Boss Trell, Lil James, and Lil Mark in 2012, 3 more in 2014, including Akira K.I. Barnes, and additional killings in 2018 and 2019. While these claims are wild, it's important to note that King Von was never convicted of any murders, a critical factor in legally defining someone as a serial killer. In April 2014, King Von was questioned by police as a person of interest in the fatal shooting of 17-year-old Gangster Disciples member Akira K.I. Barnes. No charges were filed due to inconsistencies in witness statements, but in 2021, unsealed documents released by the Chicago Police Department named him as the killer. This is one of the few instances with official documentation linking him to a specific murder, though it never resulted in a conviction. The portrayal of King Von as a serial killer has been met with significant pushback, with debates on platforms like Reddit questioning the accuracy of this label, given the lack of legal convictions. The documentary's comparison of Von to figures like Jeffrey Dahmer has drawn particular criticism for what many see as an inappropriate stretch that fails to account for the complex social and economic factors that contribute to gang violence. The controversies surrounding King Von's life and death illuminate the broader issues facing drill music and artists from gang-affiliated areas. Drill lyrics often reflect the harsh realities of street life, including violence and criminal activity. While some view these expressions as authentic reflections of lived experiences, others argue they glorify and perpetuate violence. The line between artistic expression and incitement is frequently blurred, raising difficult questions about responsibility and influence. The deaths of Muna Duke and Youngin, coming nearly 5 years after King Von's murder, demonstrate the enduring impact of these beefs and the challenges facing artists with ties to gang-affiliated areas. As bearers of Von's legacy, both men represented the continuation of O-Block's significance in drill music while navigating the dangers that come with such affiliations. Reports suggest that Muna Duke had been trying to distance himself from street life in recent months, focusing on legitimate income and showing signs of a spiritual journey through occasional posts in Muslim attire. This potential transformation makes his death all the more tragic, cutting short what might have been a story of successful transition away from the cycle of violence. Similarly, Youngin was positioned to blow up in the music industry, carrying forward O-Block's distinctive sound while building his own fan base. His death at 28 represents not just a personal tragedy, but the loss of a voice that could have continued to evolve and potentially influence the direction of drill music. The connection between King Von, Muna Duke, and Youngin goes beyond their shared affiliation with O-Block. All three experienced the harsh realities of Chicago's gang territories, translated those experiences into their music, and ultimately fell victim to the violence they chronicle. Their intertwined stories highlight both the creative potential and deadly risks associated with drill music's authenticity. As the investigation into the deaths of Muna Duke and Youngin continues, questions remain about whether the shooting was directly connected to past conflicts involving King Von or represented a new chapter in the ongoing rivalry between Tookerville and Smashville. The use of a stolen vehicle, later found burning miles from the scene, suggests a level of planning consistent with targeted hits rather than spontaneous violence. They require not just law enforcement efforts, but comprehensive approaches addressing economic inequality, limited opportunities, trauma, and the normalization of violence, a challenge that extends far beyond any single case or community. As fans continue to stream the music of King Von, Muna Duke, and Youngin, their legacies live on through their art. The question remains whether that art will be understood as a cautionary tale about the dangers of gang life, or inadvertently inadvertently serve to glorify the very conflicts that led to their deaths? The answer will depend largely on how their stories are told, remembered, and contextualized in the years to come. That brings us to the end of this video. For more interesting videos like this, click on the cards on your screen.